Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shay's Warriors Life After Cancer Talk, Listen, Share for another live educational event. Shay's Warriors is a 501c3 nonprofit with an all-volunteer board of directors that was formed in the Coachella Valley to help our cancer community thrive and after treatment is over. The mission of Shay's Warriors is to inspire, inform, and empower through health, fitness, and the mind-body connection to heal survivors and their families through a national network of support. And our Talk, Listen, Share community was formed as part of our online educational outreach to support each other through survivorship and thrivership. Talk, Listen, Share is hosted by our board members every second and fourth Wednesday of the month by Shay Moraga, founder of Shay's Warriors, myself, Dr. Sonia Fung, naturopathic doctor specializing in integrative cancer care. And we look forward to having different special guest speakers to speak on a range of topics specifically in survivorship. So tonight, what we have our special guest, Regina Basterrechea. Oh, sorry, that was a very long name. Who is a nutritionist and she, founder of Nutrition on a Mission. She loves food and learning about the power of food and how it meets our physiology to create health. Regina aims to empower those around her with the tools to become their heroes and champions of their health journey. And she is a certified functional nutritionist and lifestyle practitioner with a master's degree in cardiac rehab and a bachelor's in exercise physiology. She has been working in the Valley with over 20 years of experience, and she was a nutritionist and educator at the JW Marriott's Biggest Loser Resort Wellness Retreat program. So Regina also has a ton of information on how we are going to eat deliciously and nutritiously through the summertime. And we welcome you to our program. Let's unmute you. Hold on.
Can I do it? Okay, there we go. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Fung, and thank you, Shay, for having me and inviting me to talk to your community. I'm really excited about this community just because I really felt like there was a huge need for this. I always felt like patients, after undergoing cancer treatment just really had no support. And I know that, that this is a huge need here. And I've lost a couple of friends to cancer, and it was, it's just a really sad, process. And so I just wanted to find a way to give back. And so I was excited to get this opportunity. So I'm just here to share and talk about food and how it meets our physiology. So I'll just kind of go through some slides, and then, I welcome you guys to just ask me whatever questions you might have. So I'm going to share my screen here. Hopefully it's going to work. Sorry, I don't know. Let's see. Maybe I can do this. There we go. All right. Technology. Okay. So where food and lifestyle, meet our physiology. So the thing that's so exciting to me about nutrition and just lifestyle is, how much we're learning, about how food and our lifestyle impacts our health and all the research that's being done. And a lot of it is kind of being done by, physicians, like Dr. Fung, and that are just, doing, their own sort of experimentation and seeing what goes on. And, I think that's one of the great things is that we can all be our own experiment because, we're all unique, so epigenetics, right, is the study of how our behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect our genes, right? So, and there's food, right? There's foods that, are called DNA methylation adaptogens. Now, I know that's a big word, but our foods contain nutrients that directly influence our genes. So these nutrients work in a way that your good genes, like those that suppress tumor growth, or on your bad genes for inflammation are generally off, right? So what we eat talks to our genes. And so that brings us back to this kind of diagram here that if we think of our bodies like a tree, right, and we've got these three roots, right? We've got our genes, we've got digestion, which is really important, right? And inflammation, right? So if those are our main three roots, and then we actually have, by the nutrients and the way we live our life, we can manipulate our genes. So if you think of your genes like the hardware of your computer, and you think of your lifestyle, your eating habits, all of those things as your software or the operating system for your genes, like we mentioned with epigenetics, you can actually, manipulate those genes. So a lot of our health issues can be, amended or helped by how we nourish the soil, right? And so if we think of diseases, right, we've got the picture on the top, which are our branches, right? If you've got a tree and it's got some yellow leaves and you just get rid of the yellow leaves, the tree still has issues, right? We just got rid of the branches or the signs or the symptoms of the diagnoses that we have in our life. So if we focus on, nourishing the soil, then, we'll be able to grow a healthier tree and live healthier, longer, better lives. And so one of the big things, is really digestion, right? Which, we just sort of talked about, what you're eating is important, but it's also important how we eat, right? So, so exercise, is important because muscle is currency, really. Like when our muscles squeeze, it's not just about power and calories, right? We're actually those muscles squeezing is secreting growth hormone and other hormones into the body that are more anti-inflammatory to the body, right? And that process actually helps maintain the integrity of our smooth muscle, right? Which is other muscles in our body. Our skeletal muscle are muscles that we use to like lift weights and things, right? That's more skeletal muscle. And then we've got smooth muscle that's like in our digestive system that kind of helps move things along throughout our digestion. So exercise doesn't just, impact, how we look, but it also impacts the function of our whole body and impacts our hormonal system. And then, trying to spend some time eating, when you're in a calm state. And sometimes it just helps to, in the past, or depending on what type of family or culture you grew up in, people always sort of said a little prayer or they bless the food or what have you, because, that just brought you into a state of gratitude. It gave you a little bit of calm, before you started eating. It impacted your nervous system. So you're more in a not in that fight or flight or that sympathetic sort of system, but more in a parasympathetic or a calmed tone. Chewing your food. There was a little French lady who, growing up, I remember she would tell me, chew your food like 25 times, right? She would just really insist that you chewed your food to like the consistency of, applesauce or something, right? But, if people have issues with bloating or gas or things like that, that is something that absolutely works very well, because the more we grind up our food with our teeth, the more the digestive juices and things can get around those foods and then we can absorb them better, right? And then, we know that processed foods, tend to slide down a lot easier. We can get a lot more in. They have, less fiber and less nutrients. And really, we're all trying to eat, a nutrient-dense food because those nutrients affect our physiology. Like we just said, they impact our genes. So if you're eating things that might say like natural flavors, right? They might say, oh, it's garlic flavored, but you're not getting any of the garlic, right? That's actually helping us with our genes, right? You might be getting the flavor, but you're not really getting the, the phytonutrients and things that are manipulating those genes in a good way. And then fiber, fiber, we're learning a lot more about fiber. People thought it was just about pooping when it comes to fiber, but fiber, soluble and insoluble have their purpose, but soluble, really, we find that it helps, it helps bind to toxins, right, in our intestinal tract to get them out of the body. It helps bind to hormones, right? After hormones get used up in our body, they get metabolites of the hormones get excreted, right, into the stool, and then the soluble fiber kind of grabs onto them and gets them out of the body. And if you don't have that there, sometimes your body will recycle those things back into your body. And for the microbiome, which for those of you who aren't familiar, the microbiome is this kind of 3 pounds of bacteria, viruses, fungi, things that we have in our intestinal tract, and they have a symbiotic relationship with us. They produce vitamins, they support our immune system, and they kind of keep the, these bacteria sort of create a buffer, right, between our immune system or the inside of our body and our gastrointestinal tract, which is really our access from the outside, right? So it's a tube that goes from our mouth all the way out to our rectum. And that is kind of an outside thing, right? So, so those bacteria sort of protect our insides from things going on, and let good things in and keep bad things out. And so those bacteria we're finding are very helpful, and they feed on fiber, right? So if any of you have ever heard of net carbs or that carb calculation, the reason it's done is, you take the total carbs and you subtract the fiber. And the reason you do that is because the fiber, those calories don't actually get absorbed into the body. They just pass through you. So that's why they don't technically, count as a carb. But what they do is they feed our gut bacteria. And, most Americans get about 15 grams of fiber in a day, and we should really be getting close to double that. So it really takes a concerted effort, to make that happen. And a lot of the recipes that I sent you, and you'll get a link to, incorporate things like flaxseed meal, because it's a great source of fiber and omega-3 fatty acids, which lower inflammation in the body. We find omega-3s the highest concentration are in fish, like fatty fish, like salmon, but it's also found in some plant foods. So like flax and hemp and chia can be good sources of, those omega-3 fatty acids. And then beans and legumes, right? If you tolerate those are also a great source of fiber. So we should be getting, as women, I believe it's about 25 grams a day of fiber. For men, it's more like 30. But a lot of researchers actually feel like more might be better. But at least, trying to shoot for that 25 to 30 grams a day, or about 10 grams per 1,000 calories is sort of how that goes. And then, drinking water, right? I know sometimes I go throughout the day and I'm just like, oh, I'm really thirsty. And, I just didn't, make the time to drink water. So, so it's really like trying to come up with a plan, right? To sort of make sure that maybe you're drinking this bottle between, 8 and noon, and you're trying to drink another bottle right in the afternoon, and really finding a water bottle that you like to drink out of really makes a huge difference. Like if you like a straw, like looks like Dr. Fung likes a straw, I do too. Or you like a bigger mouth one or a narrow one or what have you, trying to make sure you find a water bottle that, that works for you. And then probiotics, right? Probiotics are found in fermented foods. You can take probiotics, which many people do, and we're learning a lot about those as well. But, probiotics kind of, are basically sort of feed and talk and communicate with the microbiome, and, allows us to have better bacteria down there. So depending on what we're eating, right, we're growing different types of bacteria, right, in the gut, in that microbiome. And so if we're feeding our body lots of plant foods, variety is very important when it comes to the microbiome. So the goal is to sort of eat kind of 30 different types of plant foods a week. And it's much easier, like if herbs and spices count. So using different, rosemary is an amazing, herb, or that gives things great flavor, and it's a really great DNA methyl adaptogen. Turmeric or curcumin, right? We hear a lot about that one. And the reason, that we hear so much about it and its health benefits are because of how it acts on our genes. And, if you think about it, these are the ones that are studied, right? But pretty much, if you think about it, every single plant probably that Mother Nature or root creates has some sort of beneficial
I think we just lost a feed.
Technical difficulties. I think she's just frozen right now.
So, whoops. And then mushrooms, right? So we're hearing a lot about different types of mushrooms and their beta glycans and all of the benefits that mushrooms have. So that's another thing that we're learning about and how they impact our immune system. So, so really, plant-based foods, I'm an omnivore. I eat everything. But definitely focusing on trying to get more of a variety of plants in with herbs and spices. So, I didn't know how much time I had. So, so I wanted to point out that with, this organization, relationships are all there is. Everything in the universe only exists because it is in relationship to everything else. Nothing exists in isolation, right? So we have to stop pretending we're individuals that can go it alone. And that's what I love so much about this organization. And if we think about, our bodies, right? We're all unique, everything matters, and and everything's connected. Right. So if you have a pain in your toe, right, there's inflammation there, right? It doesn't mean it's just an issue with your toe, right? You could be inflamed in other places and it's just you injured your toe before and now you're having pain in your toe. So, so it's important to kind of see that, what if we work on one thing, we're going to impact everything, right, in our body. So I'm going to talk a little bit about one of the recipes. And I think back on this slide here, let me go back. I forgot to mention this book here. So this book is called Younger You, and it's by Dr. Kara Fitzgerald. She is a naturopathic doctor, and she's doing some incredible work really just on epigenetics and food. Because a lot of people, may think, okay, I want to supplement everything, which may or may not be good, right? And so she really focuses on how food meets our physiology. This book is excellent. She has a whole graph in the back that tells you all the different DNA methylation adaptogens, like all the different, foods and how they impact our physiology. And, she has a program, but then she has some really great vitamins in here, or excuse me, recipes. Thank you. And so one of the ones that I included in the ones that I sent you is for red cabbage, beet, and pomegranate slaw. And I love slaw because it lasts a really long time, right? So cabbage and beets and things, like you can make a big batch of this and just have it in your refrigerator. And then you're like, okay, how are my vegetables doing today? And, oh, I haven't been so good. And so then it's just easy to just, throw a chicken breast on top of this slaw and have it as a meal. So, but yeah, so that's one of the things that I love. And then, so in her book, she has some recommendations as far as plant foods. And one of the things is she has, eating 2 cups of leafy greens a day. And so one of the recipes that's in there is a smoothie recipe, and it has 2 big handfuls of greens. So if you have your smoothie in the morning and you have 2 big handfuls of greens, right, you're getting your greens in, right, for the day. And then the cabbage, right, or the slaw, if you eat 2 cups of that, she recommends 2 cups of cruciferous veggies a day. So that's veggies like Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, radishes are in that family, watercress is in that family. So it's a big family of, of veggies, and those vegetables really support our liver, right? And in the summer when it's hot, our body kind of wants to get rid of heat, right? It wants to get rid of heat, and our liver really, helps with that. And so we support our detoxification system, right, through these cruciferous veggies. And so it's great to make sure you're getting enough of those in a day. So doing things like cauliflower rice or broccoli rice, or something like this nice cool cabbage on a hot day can help you meet that. And then she recommends another 3 cups of other colorful veggies, a day. So it's quite a few veggies, right? So start wherever you are, but it's a way that, we can really support our system, right? We get the minerals, the vitamins and things that we need. And so that's why I included that recipe. And every recipe, she tells you, like what the nutrients are that are in there that are helpful. So for example, like red wine vinegar is in this recipe, extra virgin olive oil. So that's a healthy monounsaturated fat. And when it comes to vegetables, we really want to incorporate fats in with our vegetables and eat the rainbow, because fat soluble vitamins like vitamin A, which we get beta carotene or what have you from our veggies, but vitamin A is a fat soluble vitamin. So in order to absorb that vitamin, we need fats with it. Vitamin D, right, which is definitely something that if you haven't had that measured, it's an important, vital thing to get measured and make sure you have enough of it. Most of the time when I test people, they are deficient. And here in the Valley, when we can make most vitamin D is the summer. And how many of us want to stand outside in the summer, right? And get our vitamin D. So sometimes we take it in the summer and other people take it in the winter, right? If you live north of the latitude between LA and Atlanta, in the wintertime, even if you're getting sun, your body doesn't make vitamin D very well. So depending on, where you're spending your time, that could be important. Vitamin E, vitamin K, which is another thing that's really important for blood clotting and for our bones and things. And this recipe also has cinnamon in it, right? Which is great for our blood sugar. And blood sugar could be a whole other topic. But the recipes that I provided are there because they're even, they kind of keep our blood sugar really even. And I included some resources. There's Levels Health, which is a great company. They have some wonderful recipes that are all about just trying to keep your blood sugar more even and get adequate protein to prevent, our blood sugar spiking. Blood sugar spiking can trigger inflammation. So, trying to keep our blood sugar even. It also keeps our energy even and keeps us satiated, so we're not eating all the time. So that's, helpful with the cinnamon. Shallots, onions, those are high in quercetin, which is a great antioxidant. What else? We've got the cabbage, the beets. Beets are high in betaine, which is another really important nutrient. I've learned recently, and maybe this is something Dr. Fung's known for a long time, but mouthwash, right? So we have a microbiome in our mouth, just like we have one in our gut, right? And if we use mouthwash or things that really are antimicrobial, it kills these bacteria that are beneficial in the mouth. Because when we eat, right, the veggies that we talked about, those phytonutrients interact with the bacteria in our mouth and create nitric oxide, right, which is a gas that helps dilate our blood vessels. So people who use mouthwash on a regular basis tend to have higher blood pressure. Right. So it may be as simple, to help yourself as far as that goes. If you use mouthwash, it might be, beneficial to use something different than mouthwash. But I know a lot of people, these huge containers of Listerine, right? It's like, and so it's, but no one's ever told us that, right? We've never learned that. And so I thought that was something interesting that, that our microbiome could impact that. So pomegranates are kind of like pipe cleaners. I mean, they're great for cardiovascular, preventing atherosclerosis or the buildup of plaque on the inside of our arteries. There's a lot of research to support that. Parsley, that's like a natural deodorizer for our mouth. It gives us better breath, but there's a lot of other nutrients to that as well. Walnuts, which are a nut that are the highest in omega-3s. So again, that's going to impact inflammation. So really, I mean, I think that really eating just any kind of plants is going to make a huge difference. Just adding more, trying new things, mixing it up, being adventurous in food will impact your physiology, in the best way, as long as you're eating whole foods from Mother Nature. So thank you. Let me know if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, I definitely have a follow-up question. I know recently we've been hearing about a lot of like seed oils and how too much of the seed oils, especially if they're rancid, can be very bad for you. or any rancid oil for that matter. But typically for the flaxseed and the chia seed, it's, I would recommend for my patients to get like organic whole seeds and then grind them right before, you eat them, so that you're preserving the oils in that fat, right? Is that what you typically recommend as well, Regina?
Yeah, definitely. I usually store my whole flax seeds in the freezer in a jar. And then I usually grind like a week's worth in a small container and put it in the freezer. So I cheat a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I need to just do it freshly ground, but that's sort of how I try and preserve them, by putting them in the freezer. So I don't know. We might have to see if there's any research to do that. But yeah, no. And omega-6, those seed oils, corn, soybean, the other issue with those seeds is that they're commonly genetically modified. So soy and corn for sure. So the issue with that is that those plants are grown to resist the herbicide glyphosate or Roundup. And so that way they can spray the field and kill the weeds around the plant, and not kill the plant. But the plant still gets covered in the top, in the herbicide. And we don't know. We know, right? I mean, there's been a lawsuit, right, that they've been found. Monsanto's had to pay a lot of money because it's triggered. People have brought suits against them and health issues. When it comes to that. So, that's definitely a reason. And then the omega-6 fatty acids in corn and soy, safflower oil, those two are more inflammatory in the body. And we need a balance for sure. But if we're not making the effort, to get more of those omega-3s in our diet, and we're consuming, more packaged foods that might have those, those oils in them. I used to be a little bit more draconian about this. I used to say, if it's there, I'm not having it, and now I sort of go, okay, how much of it's in there? I mean, obviously, if it's organic and it's there, then, at least it's not covered in herbicides. But I sort of look at the quantity in the food as well to see. But if it's a salad dressing or something like that, definitely, want to go for one that's made. I mean, now at least avocado oil dressings are available. California Olive Ranch makes some with olive oil. The thing about olive oil, if you ever made a dressing with olive oil, you put it in the fridge and it congeals, right? So you kind of have to, take it out of the fridge and then kind of let it melt a little bit so that it's liquid again. But yeah, definitely, trying to not have so many of those omega-6s, get more of those omega-3s, trying to get the fatty fish in your diet, some salmon, mackerel, anchovies, those sorts of fish, are high in those omega-3s. So, and then, getting those plant-based ones, I have to say that the last time I got my omega ratio measured, I mean, I'm probably, my son, whoever you live with kind of impacts your eating, but my son isn't a huge fish fan. So I maybe make fish like once a week. I don't make it a lot. We do eat sardines, right? He actually eats sardines, which, is shocking. But, we maybe a couple servings a week, but I am really religious about the flaxseed meal every day. And I kind of, and chia, and like I alternate with hemp. And my ratio was, a little higher than, in the omega-3s than the omega-6s. So, so I was pretty happy with that. But yeah, definitely being mindful of, those oils in packaged foods. How do you feel about the high oleic sunflower oils and things, Dr. Fung? Do you?
To unmute that mic. um, I think that you should probably eat most of that via food versus, a ton of it via the oil itself. So I'm definitely of the more like whole foods is better camp. because you get a balance of everything, right? You don't just get a ton of that oil, you get also the fiber, you also, you know, and other nutrients and minerals from that. So that's my general thought on a lot of things, is there's a reason why plants are made the way that they are, and you get because they're in balance as they grow. So they have all the vitamins, minerals, fiber, plant fats, things like that, in them in a balanced way for a reason. And the best way to get that is to eat live plants, right? So not necessarily, you know, for the majority of the time, eat live plants, right? And organic if at all possible. And so you're getting the most nutrition through like the most nutritionally dense foods that your body can have. And for a lot of my patients who are either going through cancer or post-cancer, you know, they're trying to reintroduce foods into their diet. Their digestive system may not be as robust because of the medications that they've been on. And so you're trying to heal that gut, and they can't eat a ton of food. So it's like, okay, for the food that they're getting in, it best, you know, let's try to make it the best, most nutrition and nutritious and nutrient dense as possible, so you don't have to eat as much and you're still getting, you know, the same amount of nutrients in your diet.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think Mother Nature packages it the best way. So, so yeah, so eating whole foods is the way to go. And you know, I think that you know, I think this is kind of an exciting time because I think we are realizing that, you know, we have a lot more control, you know, over our health. You know, we don't necessarily have to, you know, I mean, it takes forever, right? We know that it takes about 10 years for, you know, the science to get to practicing physicians usually. I mean, there's a huge gap there. And we can fill the gap by being curious and, you know, and really paying attention and listening to what our bodies are telling us. And it's, you know, oftentimes, sometimes people go into the doctor and they're like, oh, you're fine. And you're like, okay, well, I'm really not fine, you know? And if you can't find a doctor that's willing to listen and really investigate with you because you realize that this is not normal, you go and find another doctor, right? Try and, you know, and this is what's great about this community, right? If you have a great physician that you love, right? If you see Dr. Fung or you have an amazing physician that you love, you know, share, you know, because so many people just, you know, and it's it takes so long to get in, you know, this and that and the other thing. And so sometimes, you know, we just goes years, right? And we're still feeling the same and we're still having problems. And you know, when I worked with the Biggest Loser Resort, that was one of the biggest issues with, you know, really we had some pretty morbidly obese clients who would come see us and they were ashamed to go to the doctor because the doctor made them feel terrible. They made them feel like all their problems would go away if they just lost weight, right? And so what if they just weren't healthy? You know, there's something going on in their body that was preventing their body from being able to use fat for fuel, right? It was, you know, like a chicken and egg thing, right? And so, you know, so that was one of the things I kind of wished like we could have, like before when people came in, like have them go see Dr. Fung or some great physician who would like see them, right, as a person and really do some testing to see how they were before they got started. And then just to, you know, look, do you have nutrient deficiencies? You know, what's going on in your body and how do we support the soil so that we can fix the roots and get the tree flourishing, right? And that's a journey and a process and it takes time, but really just listening, you know, to your body and what it's telling you and what things work for you and what things don't. You know, like some people, legumes might be great for them. Some people it might not, right? So, you know, it's just really, you know, just paying attention. Just because I say that this is a healthy food, like eggs are an incredibly healthy food, but a lot of people don't do well with eggs or dairy. So, so again, it's being your own kind of detective, kind of assessing what's going on, tracking, right? And then, making adjustments, right, based on what you find. But and really it's consistent habits, right? So it's like working on one thing at a time. So like maybe you really want to focus on water. So really kind of get the water bottle, do this, kind of keep going little by little. And they say it takes about 66 days of, sort of repetitively doing something for it to kind of get into your subconscious so that it becomes, sort of a habit. Sleep, right, is another really important thing. And I know that that's something for me. Like I sleep well, but I do not put myself to bed at a decent hour. So I've been doing a little experiment where we have a circadian rhythm, right, in our body and with the earth. And so I've been doing an experiment where I want to see the sunrise and the sunset every day. So this is my second week of working on that, right? So everybody's got something, right? Pick something that you want to work on that you think would really help you. And then treat it like a research experiment and see how things go.
I think too, Regina, just going through cancer itself, after 5 years, finally, and everybody's body is different, everybody's mindset is different, and food, even though just when we're talking about weight loss, it is so complex. There is no right or wrong reason per person, and I feel, and this is just a personal opinion, it becomes even more complex and we are on drugs and when we've had to do chemotherapy and when we're doing radiation. And I know for me personally, over the last, when I went from 140 some pounds to my top was 225 pounds. And I did not lose weight like people did on chemo. I actually gained it after I was done. And it would not stop. Everything did. I worked with a trainer. I worked with a nutrition coach. Like I did it all. I felt like a banshee, but it still wouldn't come off until I was able to start addressing some mindset issues, which was the trauma of the cancer, what I went through. Some of that stuff really, really made a difference. I'm privileged enough that I've been able to work with Dr. Fung on some different things at Live Well. And then also some other really awesome trainers in town that have them behind that and understand, but also learning along the way, give myself grace that the fact that, the doctor said eventually weight will come off and it has just started to come off. So losing 30 of those pounds that I gained from that has taken almost 7 years. And that in itself is really hard because I'm young, I do work, and I think that I eat right, but also let's face it, I have to have a piece of chocolate cake every once in a while. And I don't even like chocolate, but sometimes those teenies get to me, just letting Jeffrey Tropple know that out there. But there is no right or wrong reason. And I think that as a woman and a cancer survivor, I hope that whoever is watching this tonight too, like hears what I mean, like give yourself grace and do exactly what Regina is talking about, step up. If you normally eat crackers at night, maybe you eat something like green beans or celery, like something that has a, because I know for me, I love chips, but then I moved to like doing cucumbers. I love cucumbers and I love radishes. It still has that crunch to it. So it's like finding those things, that combination that works for your body, that also doesn't give you a ton of calories. And then also just walking instead of strenuous working out. Walking is amazing and it's free, right? Okay, there's my 2 cents.
I know I love that. Well, and so I'm 51, and I have a lot of friends that are kind of in this middle, pre-perimenopausal, menopausal range, And the thing is that the way we metabolize fat actually changes because our estrogen changes, right? And so if you've had a cancer that's impacted your hormones, that's going to impact how your body uses free fatty acids, for fuel. And so I'm a huge proponent of strength training, lift heavy stuff, because muscle is, it's where we store carbohydrates, right? So as we get older, we lose muscle. And then we don't have as much storage capacity for carbs. And so our body stores it in other places as fat. So, and I don't think you have to, I think you could do like 15 minutes, 3 days a week of some kind of strength training. It doesn't have to be a lot. And I absolutely agree about the walking. And I think this is what happens. Like we've always been told, eat less, exercise more. And so when we start to get heavier in the middle age, we think, oh, I need to do more. But our stress hormones, right? Our stress hormones impact a lot. And by doing more and starving yourself, you're just escalating those stress hormones, and your body's like, I'm holding on to everything, right? And so what we used to be able to do, get away with when we were 20, when we had different hormones, right? We can't get away with that now, or just because our bodies changed through treatment, the same things don't really work anymore. So I'm with you. I think, moving every day is super important, and we know that movement is important. So definitely getting the walking in. That's what I've been doing on my sunset views. I've been going for a walk every evening, because I know it's hard here in the desert. I mean, it's hard to get your nature time in. I can't go hiking like I did. Even when you get up early, it's hard to hike and get out in nature. So I've been kind of doing these sunset walks, because it's like the sunsets have been amazing with the clouds. And so that brings me joy. So I go out and check out the sunset. I send pictures to my friends, and, and go for like a 30-minute walk in my neighborhood just to get some movement in. But yeah, definitely, the resistance training, I think that really has a helpful benefit as far as muscle, and your metabolism. But absolutely, I hear what you're saying. It's a challenge. And I had a client that he was in his 60s when he came to the Biggest Loser program. He wasn't really a super heavy guy, but he had to leave early because he had a little bit of chest pain or something while he was there. And he sent me an email a couple years later, and he told me he had lost 50 pounds, right, over the course of, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And he was continuing to lose weight. And I was like, if I was telling a new client, okay, you're going to lose 50 pounds over 3 years, they'd probably be like, sorry, I'm not hiring you, because how many pounds, that's barely any weight loss, but he kept it off, and he was continuing to go down. So he could have been a 60-year-old man that gained 50 pounds over the 4 years, but he didn't. And he was really grateful to me, because he was just like, you just gave me practical information, and gradually over time, and oftentimes the weight comes on slow, right? And so if we can, gradually get it off, change our body composition, and do it in such a way that we're not yo-yoing, right, up and down, we're going to be, a lot healthier, for it. And it's really those habit and lifestyle changes, right? Just little things that we do all the time, that can make a big difference.
I just want to reiterate to anyone too, like you just said that, in the fact that our hormones are hugely affected. And a lot of times when a young cancer patient or someone who's not been in menopause yet goes into a extreme chemotherapy or something, you sometimes will get kicked into menopause right away. So that changes everything. So again, whoever's listening, self-grace, talk to your doctor about that. Talk to Regina, talk to Dr. Fung. There are definitely ways to be able to help and kind of manage those things, but don't be hard on yourself, because you may be gaining weight because of something that is completely your control. We do have some questions, and I want to make sure we get to those because we've got about 15 minutes left. I'm going to throw them up on the screen. There we go. Nathan asked, does athletic do the same thing?
I mean, I would say it absolutely helps. But I still think that you need you still, still think you need other plant foods, just because, you're not getting as much fiber. And, they are whole foods. So, that is good. And I'm not sure what the servings, as far as how many servings of fruits and vegetables you get, but I would say it's definitely better. It's a good plan. I think it's a good insurance. I do use a green powder, and, that book that I mentioned, Younger You, with Dr. Carrot Fitzgerald, they actually used a green powder in the study. So they reversed biological age, I think, in 3 months, by, I think, 3.5 years, just with diet alone in a very short period of time. And the cool thing about our microbiome is it changes like that. Like if I do something today, it changes my microbiome tomorrow. I mean, it's a very fast change. And the lining of our gut, actually, those cells live about 3 days. So it's very, we can make differences, from the inside out. Fairly easily just by changing our diet. So yeah, I would definitely say that I think Athletic Greens is a great insurance policy, and it has a lot of good things in it that are going to support your microbiome.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Anne asks, what is your opinion of prepackaged meals that are delivered to your home, such as Factor, Every Plate, etc.?
I think they can be really nice, because I think people eat more variety, just depending on what you're choosing. It gets more variety in people's diets, because oftentimes there's things that maybe people wouldn't normally cook for themselves. I know, and if you're just 1 or 2 people, sometimes it might make more sense, affordably to get a lot of different foods. And sometimes, going to the store and cooking for 2 things, we tend to waste more food and things like that. So I don't think that they're, I think they're a good idea, especially maybe if you get, I actually did some of that during COVID, because I was so sick of my own cooking that I decided to do something different. So, so I think I use Sunbasket or something, which is more of a meal prep versus things that are prepared. But again, I haven't necessarily looked at all the ingredients in those 2 particular companies. I've seen Factor marketed a lot. But again, like Dr. Fung mentioned, some of those seed oils, do they use those seed oils? I forgot to mention canola oil, which I should definitely mention. If canola oil isn't organic, it's definitely genetically modified. So that's something to look out for. And, the Environmental Working Group, I didn't share that link, but it's ewg.org. They come out with a produce guide, and they give you like the dirty dozen, or the dozen produce that the USDA has found the most pesticide residues on, and the clean 15, which are cleaner. So if you're trying to determine whether the company, I'm not sure if they use organic produce, but if they do, then that's definitely a good call there. And then, sometimes the packaging, that's the only thing, we learn more about things that have to do with packaging. And so some of the things that they line the packages with, like, could be something, but overall, I mean, I think if you eat more vegetables this way, and you eat more regularly, and you're eating more nutritiously than you were before, then I definitely think it's a good call.
Thank you. This came in from Insta. What happens if you're allergic to seafood? How else do you get your omega-3?
Well, there is, algae, right? There are algae forms of omega-3s. And if you think about, that's how the fish actually get their omega-3s, is because they eat algae, right, in the ocean. So you're actually getting it a step before the fish do, right? So if you go with the algae form, it's usually, there aren't quite as many milligrams, and it may not be quite as easily absorbed, but it's, but it's definitely a good form of omega-3s. And then we talked about, flaxseed, chia seeds, hemp seeds. What else can you get omega-3s? I'm trying to think. Seafood. That's all that's coming to mind at the moment. Yeah. So I think those are the top ones. Sorry about the allergy.
Okay, let's see here. Jason says, The best nutrient, natural or oil related, for recovery from exercise and muscle recovery? Does this vary depending on season and time of year?
I would say that, when you lift weights and things, you are creating inflammation, right? You're tearing muscle fibers, right? And then your body has to like rebuild them. And that's kind of how you get stronger. I would say protein, right? Amino acids are really important for this. And it doesn't really matter timing wise. They used to say, oh, you have to have it within this amount of time. But protein, we actually need more as we get older. And there are some myths out there about, if that too much protein is going to impact your kidneys and, all of these things. And that research has really been refuted. And the older we are, the more protein we need. So I would say with protein, I have a couple of articles on my website about protein, but overnight, right, our body, especially like if you have an injury or something, you need even more. But if we've gone through a procedure or we're being really sedentary and we're losing muscle, right, we need even more of those amino acids and those proteins. And so overnight, our body breaks down, protein into amino acids to keep things running in our body, because amino acids are super important for many different processes. People think about it only for muscle, but insulin is over like 100 different amino acids, right? That hormone. So we use amino acids for everything. And so overnight we're fasting and our body's sort of breaking down proteins into amino acids. And then in the morning, to stop that from happening, it's important to get at least, 30 grams of protein to create muscle protein synthesis, right? To get our muscles to kind of start rebuilding again. So the two most important meals are the first one of the day and the last one at the end in the evening. And, the more, the bigger you are, the more protein you need. So usually it's about 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight is sort of, where you're shooting for. And you spread that out throughout the day, right? So, so if I'm, 150 pounds, then I'm going to want to, eat about 150 grams of protein, which is quite a bit. But then I'm going to split that up throughout the day in my snacks. And you may need protein, some protein shakes or something like that to fit all of that in. As far as the season or time of year, I can't really think of any reason that it would vary. I really think it just depends on, how much you're exercising, what your goals are. Protein makes us feel like we ate something, right? It is filling. And so trying to make sure that you get adequate protein will make it so that you're not so hungry all the time, right? So, so I really focus, when I kind of build people's plans, I really look at protein and sort of focus on protein, and then veggies and protein is very nutrient dense, animal protein, especially if you're eating only plant forms of protein, you're going to need to get more grams of protein in a day. It's not that you can't do it. You just have to end up eating more. So as far as recovery, anything anti-inflammatory, I find that, turmeric, that's a nutrient that I take on a regular basis. And because it is anti-inflammatory, I think it really helps prevent me from getting super sore, after workouts and things. So, but natural oil, flaxseed oil is an omega-3, so it could lower some inflammation. So that might be something to use. MCT oil, I don't know that it helps with recovery, but your body treats that oil very differently, and you can just turn it into instant energy. And so it kind of gives you a little boost like carbs, but without the insulin or the sugar response. And so you want to be careful how much of that you use, like start slow, start with a little bit, because it can cause some gastrointestinal things. And it's great for the brain too, MCT oil. It comes from coconut. It's one of the fatty acids in coconut.
I think one thing that too is to always talk to your doctor, or if you are currently going through cancer, or even afterwards, because of the supplements and everything that we use. Sometimes, and Sonia, you could speak on this too.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes there can be interaction. For you had just mentioned turmeric, which we know is an amazing spice, or not spice, like it's a powder that's out there, a root, and it's really good for everything, right? did not know that when I was going through my own treatments and I was taking to all of my smoothies and whatnot, it is also a natural blood thinner. And so that's really important because we just need to make sure that whatever that is, we're telling our nurse, telling our doctors what we are taking, which is all for us, but also could have some reactions, with what we are having or even life after. So I know that's important. Sonia, do you have any to that?
Yeah, especially for like turmeric or its constituent curcumin, that's a very common like anti-cancer type of a supplement. There's a lot of medications that go through that your body processes these enzyme pathways that has to that if you are taking in a lot of curcumin or other types of supplements, there's only so much bandwidth and only so many enzyme pathways that your body can utilize to process all of these medications and or supplements and or other things, right? So you have to be careful if there's interactions between the medication and also the supplement or herb or whatnot. And again, that's why you want to tell your doctors these things so that, or pharmacists or whatever, whomever you seek health from, so that they can hopefully be the ones counseling you on whether or not there are these interactions or whether or not you're using the same detox pathways. And if you're overloading them, that's not a good thing. So, yes.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you for that reminder. And I think it goes back again to Dr. Fung saying, if you're getting it in your food, then that's a much, safer way especially if you're, if you're on a lot of different medications or you're going through treatment.
Definitely. Another question, kind of already answered this, but what are the foods that are okay to get regular versus organic for those of us who cannot afford a Whole Foods or a Sprouts? And this came off Twitter. You got you on mute.
Yeah, you got on mute. I think Regina already mentioned the.
So maybe we can send you the link to ewg.org, but they have that pesticide guide to produce. I know strawberries is definitely on there. Apple. I have a screenshot on my phone of the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 so that when I'm at the store and I forget, I can look at it. But so strawberries, spinach, kale, collard, mustard greens, nectarines, grapes, cherries, peaches, pears, bell and hot peppers, celery, and tomatoes are kind of the Dirty Dozen. So, but if you do go to ewg.org, they have a wallet card that you can download. But that's a good place to start as far as what you want to buy organic. And you want to be mindful, if it's frozen or if it's like in a food, you want to just make sure that those items are organic.
It's funny, I just put up on my Instagram page from my clinic the Dirty Dozen Clean 15 today. Or this.
I think I saw it.
Mm-hmm. So you can find it there too.
Oh, do you want to read the question?
So Nathan, last question here. I worry that when things are cooked, I'm assuming, in plastic and they're warmed up, is that dangerous? Wow, loaded question here.
Well, I would say the safest thing to do is pull it out of the packaging and put it in your own glass container and warm it up that way if possible. So I wouldn't recommend warming things up in plastic. If you can, just pop it out of the tray or whatever it came in and heat it up in a safe container.
Yep.
One more question.
Missed that. Angela is asking if it's really that big of a difference between organic and regular, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yeah, there have been research studies that support that because of the soil that the organic produce is grown in, the soil is going to be cleaner, so there's going to be less issues with toxins and things, but but it's also more nutrient dense, so there's more minerals and vitamins and things, and that's one of the biggest issues. People sort of say, oh well, my grandfather never ate any vegetables and he lived till 90 something and never had any problems. And it's like, yeah, but he was also eating different food. The food was grown in a completely different way. And I like the farmer's market. I like shopping at the farmer's market. Sometimes I have a hard time, I get a little overexcited at the farmer's market and I end up buying way too many things. And so, but, based on some of the things we've heard in the news and things about how our food is grown, I'm kind of, getting more focused on maybe trying to, spend some more time at the farmer's market and buying some things there, just because you can talk to the farmer. You can talk to them about what they're putting in the soil, and just kind of get to know, that grower, because more than likely, the food that you're going to be getting from them is significantly more nutritious, and and even meats and animal proteins and things like that. My family's from Spain, and I would go to Spain, and people say, oh, they're so healthy here, they live so long, and and I'm like, they're not eating broccoli, right? They weren't eating any cabbage or any of those sorts of things. I mean, they had iceberg lettuce with some sliced tomatoes, some onion, and olive oil and vinegar, right? And that was sort of their vegetables. They did eat a lot of lentils and things like that. But what I found was that they feed their animals the vegetables, right? They're eating animal protein, and those animals are out there like eating all kinds of different plants and weeds and all kinds of things. They also fed them lots of like turnip type things and different, root vegetables they were feeding to the animals. And so I really think that how we raise animals and how we grow our foods has changed a lot. And so now we just aren't getting the nutrients, from the produce like we used to. And that's really requiring us to eat significantly more of that so that we nourish our bodies with the micronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the phytochemicals that we need to, to live well. And like I mentioned before, we have a lot more toxins in our environment, and and cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, radishes, cabbage, all of that really helps our liver, right? Support our liver and detox, and helps us get rid of all of those things. So, we have a built-in natural detox system. We just need to be engaging it, right, on a regular basis. And bitter foods, right? Things like dandelion greens, beets, green tea, all of those sorts of, kind of coffee, right? We didn't really talk about coffee, but coffee is bitter, and it's really high in antioxidants. It's actually the number one antioxidant consumed by, I think, people everywhere, but definitely here in the United States. And so, so those bitter things really help our body process and get rid of some of these toxins, along with fiber, right? We talked about fiber too.
Well,
yeah, there.
Of inflammation. Oh, go ahead, Sonia. Sorry.
One thing. I'm like super excited about this because I'm listening to a book right now called What Your Food Ate by David Montgomery and Ann Bickel, or Bickley. I don't know. I probably butchered her last name. I'm sorry. But it is an amazing book. It does talk a lot about regenerative farming, the differences between organic, conventional farming, the soil health, the nutrients in the soil transferring to the nutrients of the vegetables, to the nutrients that for the vegetables that you're that the animals are eating, to what if you're eating animals and vegetables, what you get, all the nutrients transfers from like these tiny little soil microorganisms into your human body to make it healthy, or to make it not healthy, right? So it is a fascinating book, and I highly, highly recommend it. What Your Food Ate. So, okay, that's it.
We're going to put all of this information up in the comments. For now, Regina, we just want to thank you so much for being your time and your talent and your expertise to our community. And we will also be placing your website and everything in the comments so that people want to find you afterwards. They'll be able to do that. And thank you, Dr. Fung, for being also another plethora of information and just an amazing host with us and our community. If you love what we do, please go to shayswarriors.org. We have programs, tools, and resources that are always complimentary for cancer survivors and their families to be mindful in healing through the body and soul. Thank you very much, both of you, for tonight. And we will see you next month. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.